I indie published my book, The Soothsayer, last year, and I did it on my own. I considered a couple of hybrid publishers. I was even approached by a couple. I almost signed on the dotted line, and at the last minute, I pulled out, and I was so glad I did. I wound up saving myself a lot of money and getting better results than I think they could have done for me. So let's talk about what it is that you're actually paying for. I've created a chart breakdown showing 3 different types of ways that you can self-publish. The first column I'm going to be showing you what it would cost at the absolute bare minimum. The second column will be if you hired a third-party contractor or service to do some of the services for you. And then finally, we'll look at what a hybrid publisher might charge you for an all-in-one service. For the first 2 columns, you're going to see a per item breakdown of costs. For the hybrid, you won't really see the cost until the very end, but I want you to pay attention to kind of see the breakdown of this. So first, let's jump into it with design services. Design services are important, specifically your book cover. You do not want to skimp on your book cover because people absolutely judge a book by its cover. If you're pulling out a really low resolution image for your book cover, or you're just throwing together something that you sort of patch together in Photoshop, it's not going to draw in readers, unfortunately. Even if your manuscript is beautifully written, it doesn't matter. Your cover is important. If you're going to DIY it, then the cost for you would be about nothing if you already have the program. If you're going to hire a contractor through Fiverr or a publishing service that may not actually put your book out there, but will do a professional job of designing a custom cover, and that's important, custom cover, not a template, cost me about $700. And then you have the hybrid publisher who will say it's part of their service. Next, you have the digital proof of your cover. The digital proof is the trial run of your book cover. If you're doing it yourself, it costs you nothing. If you're doing it through a contractor, again, they should include that in their cover design services. You should have a certain number of revisions allowed for what you're paying. So it shouldn't cost a cent more. And then a hybrid publisher might include it as part of the initial cover design process. Then we get into editing. And what that really means is copy editing and proofreading. Copy editing really helps with sentence phrasing and readability, and proofreading tackles those little grammar issues you might have missed. You can use stuff like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid or AutoCrit. There are programs out there that can help you catch and refine your writing somewhat, and they do a decent job. They're not perfect, but they can help you clarify your manuscript and give it a more professional read, professional look, be easier for your readers to tackle. Generally, those programs cost in the range of $120 a year. If you were to get a professional editor, which is what I would suggest doing, that's going to be pricier. But again, that is one of those investments that I think is absolutely worth the price. I paid roughly $2,500 for my editor, and I love her. She's amazing. She catches stuff left, right, and center, and she's made my books better. Hybrid publisher should offer these services too. Then we go to ebook conversion and layout, taking that Word document or that PDF and turning it into a MOBI file, an EPUB file, some kind of a digital layout that can be easily read in ebook readers or Kindles. And also, if you're having a PDF file and you're going to go to Amazon, you want it to actually look nice on a paperback page. Again, I used a third-party company that actually created the ebook version of my book and the paperback format of my book. And I want to say it was roughly $400 for that service of doing the layout and doing the ebook layout and doing a paperback layout. A good contractor should allow you to revise or question or check their work. That should be part of the deal. Hybrid publishers, again, should offer this as part of their basic services. If you're doing like a fantasy novel and you have a world map, you might want to have that map inserted in your book, or an image. Just like the cover, any interior images or maps need to be high resolution. If you already know how to create those image files, it doesn't cost you a cent. If you're going to hire a contractor, mine was about $250 for, I think, 1 or 2 inserts. And they did a really great job with my maps in the Soothsayer. And that would also be some part of a hybrid service that they might offer with a hybrid publisher. Now let's get on to distribution. Okay, so you've got your book. You've got your book in ebook form. You've got a paperback form. You've got a cover that kills. You've got interiors that look great, interior images. Now you're going about ISBN registration. Now, an ISBN is the number that bookstore sellers and Amazon or libraries can find your book with. Now, if you're using Amazon only, Amazon provides you a free one, okay? If you would like your book on any other platform beyond Amazon, like in Barnes & Noble or in a library or other bookstore, you're gonna have to actually pay for a federally registered ISBN number. And that's through Bowker, B-O-W-K-E-R, Bowker.com. They are the only legit agency that will register your book with a real ISBN that can be used on any platform, including Amazon, Google, Ingram, bookstores, libraries. You need to go to Bowker.com and buy a block of ISBN numbers. Those numbers will be yours forever. Once you've registered a book under one specific ISBN, it's set in stone. You can't change it later. But I think one ISBN through Bowker to federally register it is like $125 or something like that, $150. But to get 10, it's like $295 or $300. Most people wind up just buying a block of 10 because then you've got enough ISBNs for your next 10 books. I spent about $295 on buying a block of ISBN numbers. I registered my ebook under one and my paperback version of the Soothsayer under another. So every version of your book gets its own ISBN. A hybrid publisher will offer that, but here's the trick to that. If they're only publishing to Amazon, you're not getting your money's worth because Amazon ISBNs don't cost them a cent. So you need to make sure that if they're registering an ISBN, it's a real legit Bowker government issued ISBN, not just an Amazon one. Then you have a Library of Congress number, an LCCN number. Now, this isn't required, okay? An ISBN, I would say, is required. You need to get one. An LCCN number is how libraries might find your book, okay? It's a special number used by the Library of Congress that identifies and connects your book and registers it and allows it to be seen even further beyond your ISBN. Now, here's the thing. A hybrid service might charge you extra for that, or might charge you, I've seen upwards of $75 to register an LCCN. Guess what? It's free. It doesn't cost you a cent, and it's not hard to do. So you shouldn't be paying. If you're doing it yourself, DIY, $0. If you're using a third party to do this, you really don't need to, but they shouldn't be charging you a cent. It doesn't cost them a cent. It doesn't take that long. But a hybrid publisher might tout that as one of their special services. It shouldn't be. Okay, publishing. Now, I've seen a lot of hybrid publishers tout how many platforms and countries they publish. They publish in America and Canada and England and all of Europe and the Philippines and whatever. The question you need to ask them is, how are you publishing? Because really, there's only 2 major ways to publish these days if you're an indie author. That's on Amazon, which is 80% of the publisher's market, and then through IngramSpark. IngramSpark is a company that most bookstores and libraries and universities use to purchase your book. To upload your book to Amazon or to IngramSpark is free. Account creation's free. The upload, especially IngramSpark, they used to charge money for this. I don't think they do it anymore. It's free. Now, uploading your manuscript in the correct file format, uploading the cover image in the correct file format, making sure it's the right dimensions, making sure it looks good, that's on you. But it doesn't take much to learn. If you're publishing to Amazon, Ingram, Barnes & Noble, Google, whatever, most of these platforms are absolutely free to publish to. And they handle the distribution of your book. They are what's called a pod, print on demand. They will make sure your book gets out there to the people when they buy it. You don't have to deal with that. So for DIY, doesn't cost you a thing. Any reputable contractor would not charge you a thing to do this because you would pretty much be doing it yourself. A hybrid publisher might try to charge you more to publish to all these platforms. They shouldn't, but they'll claim that's one of their service perks. Now we get on to author copies. If you're going through Amazon, you're going to pay the cost of production. My book, The Soothsayer, retails at $15. For me to get my own copies, I have to pay the cost. I think it's like $5 or $6 or something like that. So I'm just paying the cost of the printing, and then they'll mail it to me. It generally varies on how long your book is, color pages, or a glossy cover, or that kind of a thing. And this is the one where I would say hybrid may have a leg up on doing it yourself or using a third-party service, is that a lot of times decent hybrid publishers will offer you a set number of author copies. So that's nice. Okay, marketing. Where the rubber meets the road. As an author, you need to have some way to promote your book. I don't care if you're traditionally published or you're self-published. If you're traditionally published, guess what? They're not going to have $1 million to promote and market you. You will be in a stable of other authors. You will be lucky if they spend a couple grand on you, okay? Most publishers today do not have a huge budget for this. So they expect you, the author, to do the lion's share of it. So an author website and a domain, those are things that you should have. Think of it like the hub of a wheel. Anyone who wants to find out who you are, what your books are about, and what you're working on should first go to your website. So having a website is important. Now, if you were to go through GoDaddy or some other site, you're going to roughly pay about $50, $60 a year. That would require you to build it though, okay? But let's say that you're not comfortable creating the site yourself. You don't know how to make it look the way you want it to look. So you hire a contractor to do it. On Fiverr, you can get a pretty nice looking website for about $300. So $300 plus $50 for the company that's actually going to host your website and give you that URL, that web address where people can find you. You're roughly looking at about $350, okay? Okay, hybrid service. They may offer a website for you, but here's the caveat. How good does the website look? Because I've seen author websites hosted by hybrid publishers, and they're basically one page with a little dinky photo and a little write-up about your book and a link. You could get that one page as part of their all-in-one service, but you may not like the way it looks. Online promotion, your website. This is stuff like a blog tour where you go around and you write guest blogs or being a guest on a podcast. If you're doing online promotion like a podcast, being a guest on a podcast or guest blogging, $0. Most podcasters need guests. And if you can align with the podcast that really connects with the content of your book, those are the best ones to go for. Guest blog shouldn't cost you anything. Sometimes you can do what's called a blog tour, where you're hiring a third party to create kind of a press kit for you and send out an article about your book or about you or an interview that you've given to their network of bloggers. So that's something I did, and I used Espresso Book Tours. I believe it cost about $90 for me to do a book blitz, and I got featured on 25 to 30 different bloggers. I have never found a hybrid publisher that had any kind of relationship with podcasters or bloggers, and I've looked. They may offer to promote you on our online bookstore. We're going to feature you on our online bookstore, but here's the question you need to ask. How many people visit your online bookstore? How many sales do you rack up on average per author or for a successful author? You need to know that, because if they're offering that promotional service just on their website, that's not that big of a deal. Press kit materials. This is something that you might have created, like bookmarks or flyers or something fancy that you could hand out in physical form. These are things that you might do at an author signing at a bookstore. What's most important is developing relationships with local bookstores that will support local indie authors like you. So developing those relationships is important, but having a press kit, it's nice. It's not required. If you're DIYing it and you have something like Canva, or you're really good with Photoshop or whatever, you can create a lot of these materials yourself. You just need to make sure you're using high quality material and a nice graphic design. You can hire someone on Fiverr, an expert who will create a press kit for you for roughly 20 bucks. A hybrid publisher might charge you hundreds. Last thing, royalties. If you're posting to Amazon or Ingram, you can expect them to take roughly 65%. Yeah, ouch, right? You're keeping roughly 35% of the royalties from any book sale. Now, believe it or not, that's usually better than a traditional publishing deal. Traditional publishing deal, you might keep 10%. So that's kind of one of the pluses of being self-published authors, is that you're going to keep a higher percentage of the royalties. A hybrid publisher, if they're publishing to their bookstore, they might give you 50% of the royalties. But again, that's a bookstore on their website that people may or may not ever go to. So you're getting 50% of zero is still zero. They still have to play by the rules as far as Amazon or Ingram go. So they're not going to give you more than 35% royalties on any other platform outside of their own website. So if they're offering you some amazing royalty number, you need to ask them, wait a minute, is that just for your online store? Or do you have some other platform outside of your online store where you distribute books to? Because I can tell you that's not the percentage you're going to get on Amazon, and that's not the percentage you're going to get through Ingram. Finally, let's break down the costs of what it is to DIY your book, to get professional help through contractors or third-party services, or to do it through a hybrid publisher. So DIY, bare bones, cheap as you can possibly get, you're looking at $400 to $500. Maybe even a little less if you're using a program that can handle several of these things like cover design and book layout, then it might even be a little bit less. But here's the question you need to ask. What is the end result? Remember, people will judge a book by its cover. Contractor, I paid just under $5,000 for everything that I got, which was professional cover, professional editing, layout services, including eBooks, ISBN numbers, author websites, social media, and all the marketing that I did on my own. About $49.05, I think is the number I got up with. Now, here's where the hybrid publishers come in. They offer all these white glove services all in one. The minimum I've seen for all of it is $5,000, and I've seen it upwards of $15,000. So the question I'm asking you is that price tag worth it to you? Are you getting what you're paying for? I'm not saying that hybrid publishers are a ripoff. They're not. If you don't want to do any of the extra work yourself, and if you don't really care too much about what the final product looks like, because a hybrid publisher can mess up your book just as easily as you can. And that's the truth.